Good night, everyone. We are happy that you have joined us.
Yep.
We do apologize for the little delay. Of course, you know how these technical things go.
Yes.
All right, but we're really happy to have you with us tonight on this really hot and scintillating topic, surviving a sexless marriage. Guys, Kareina, we have two gentlemen with us here on the podcast tonight. And they're really going to help us delve into this topic in the next few moments. We'll introduce them in a little while, but in the meanwhile, we just wanna chat with you a little bit. Kareina, today we had we can't continue our marriage podcast unless we address the elephant in the room.
Yes, and it's a pretty big elephant that was in the proverbial room.
Yeah.
What are you talking about today, Jayden? I'm just trying to go along with you. I think I know what you're talking about. It's Sautati by chance? It's Sautati?
Definitely.
All right. I mean, I went on social media today and it was all about Terence. Terrible Terence. Now,
Terence.
we are not talking about our Minister of Health. Nope. You are safe. You are marked safe from this fiasco. We are talking about
the
Terence.
Minister of Health actually came out with a statement and saying he's the wrong
goodness.
Terence. It's not this Terence, it's another Terence. But for you, those of you who aren't aware, the name Terence has been making its way around the internet.
Yeah.
Terence, today there was a video emerging on social media right here in Trinidad and Tobago of a man named by the name of Terence, whose wife would have caught him. And she would have sat him and his family down to break the news about her discoveries.
Yes.
Understand he's an officer of the law.
He's an officer of the law, but I feel like his wife would get promotion straight to the top cop because of the investigative skills that she had and she honed today.
Definitely. You know, they always say that women are really good in investigating. Is that true? Guys online, you all think women are better investigators in terms of, all right, they know the signs, the telltales of how the men act and what. And some guys are clueless. So this woman definitely, this wife, she was, I think she should be given a post in the Port of Spain CID.
Yeah. And I mean, she came out and she said, I didn't want to accuse you until I had evidence, and now I have cold, hard evidence and facts. And she had the evidence. She had
a lot of evidence. Where he went, who he went with, why he went, how he went,
how long he
stayed, everything. She had her facts, she brought it to the table, and of course, this information went straight around social media. Terence and the debacle here in Trinidad. About Terence. But we didn't come to talk about Terence this evening, although it's a hot topic.
You know we like to keep trending, but
we gotta keep trending. And of course, to keep us trending, to keep the topics trending, we encourage you to like this video, to subscribe to the channel, and we're asking you to share. We were speaking with our guest and guru earlier, and we believe that this may not be for everybody, but if this podcast tonight will just touch one person, you never know who it is. And because the topic is so taboo, nobody comes out and says, I'm the one, I'm surviving here. I'm just holding on to a thread of life, I'm surviving here. No one comes out and says that, but on the Merge podcast, and we wanna scratch where it itches. That's probably not a good
that's not a good statement to make on this topic.
In this context. But at the end of the day, we want to really treat with the issues in a real way, in a very real way. And so we're gonna attempt to do that tonight.
All right.
Before we get into it though, we want to make a disclaimer. This topic is not for children under 18 years. And of course, parents, we want to do the responsible thing and tell you up front that some of the things we say tonight, while we would try to contextualize it and not just and joke about everything, we really will not be able to dodge everything and to cover up everything. And so we want to encourage you to be responsible.
Be responsible, and I mean, it's on YouTube, so when your kids get older, you could always show it to them. But this evening, now is not the time and place, right?
And do know that while you may see us laughing and having a good time tonight, the purpose and the intent, the objective is not just to laugh, it's not just to share content that would keep people viewing, but it is to lift up the name of Jesus, to promote marriages in a positive light and really treat with some of the issues, especially those that persons don't generally speak about.
Yes.
Yeah? So we're going to get right into it. Thanks for joining us again. Thanks for sticking with us. As I mentioned prior, we had some technical challenges getting off the jump, but we really appreciate the community of you all who stay with us. And please,
we want to invite you to like the video. We want you to share and subscribe to our channel. You will be notified anytime we go live. You will never miss it. And share the link. Share this link in your WhatsApp. Share it with your contacts, family, friends, and let's go. Yep,
beautiful. Kareina, remind us what the topic is for tonight.
The topic for this evening is surviving a sexless marriage. And the entire title is actually how to survive a sexless marriage. But surviving a sexless marriage is a scintillating topic, and we cannot wait to get into it.
Definitely. So, I mean, I'm segueing from Terence today.
All right.
And not wanting to get into it just yet. But Terence would have behaved in a particular way, or allegedly behaved in a particular way, that can, in some occasions, deprive your wife from, sex.
Okay.
If you're going on the outside. And so if there are persons that go on the outside, that's sometimes one of the causes why inside things are a little bit scarce. And so we're going to touch on those things. But before we do so, we want to introduce our guests. And our Guru Kareina, introduce our guest for us.
All right. So our guest this evening, we have the one and only Jayden Kareina. And he is, he's no stranger to the Merge podcast. Jayden is going to take that big step very soon.
Yeah.
And he's going to be, in that merge community. If you don't know what I mean, it simply means he's going to get married soon to the lovely Adana. And we just want to send all of our best wishes to you guys and all of the best. And, this evening, let's be clear, this evening, the guest and guru, I have to say it, it doesn't mean that they are in a sexless marriage or will be, because, right? It's just, these are the folks that we believe this evening we are going to interact with and explore the topic with. And we want to hear from you as well.
Yeah.
So, of course, we have persons in the chat coming in, and if you have those questions, drop them in the chat. So that we are happy that we have Jayden, so welcome.
Yes.
And thanks for joining this evening.
All right, and of course we have with us Daniel Josiah to our far right. Daniel Josiah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me here.
I understand that you're an avid viewer.
Yes, most certainly.
You and your wife.
Most certainly. She's on. She sends her love. She couldn't be here tonight. She's home with our daughter there, but she's tuned in.
Beautiful. So that's. You heard it right there. That's Daniel Josiah, his wife of 16 years, Arlene. Locked on. Good night, Arlene.
And Daniela.
And their daughter.
Well, she's not locked on, but
7 years old. 7 years old. We hope she's not locked on. Daniel has a background in information technology and a lot of experience. He's a man that I consider very wise. And he was sharing a text with us earlier that really speaks to the fact that God gives him utterance. And definitely, I have been a recipient of those utterances. Engaging with Daniel, I realize he's a man of great wisdom. And I know why now, because he says God gives him utterance in due season. Daniel, there's a fun fact also, Kareina, that we have about Daniel and Ali.
And we would have experienced this fun fact with our very own eyes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Daniel and Ali, watch now. This guy's a big guy. If he stands up here right now, he's tall.
Yes.
But trust me, that guy light on his feet.
Yes.
Guys, one of his hobbies, he enjoys ballroom and Latin dancing.
Yep, him and Arlene, I saw it firsthand and I was like, they smooth like butter.
And you know, have some people, they enjoy doing something, but they're not necessarily good at it.
Yes,
This cannot be said of them.
No.
This cannot be said of them.
No.
They enjoy dancing, and my
I
oh
can see
my,
it.
they are good. They're an inspiration.
Yes.
And so, Kareina, as a married couple, I had to be able to get some moves on my feet too.
Yes.
So we'll talk to Daniel, but we'll talk to them on a different topic tonight, gentlemen. Good night.
Good night.
And lovely to have you all on the podcast with us. We're gonna get right into the topic, how to survive a sexless marriage. Kareina, take it away.
Yeah. Well, let me just quickly take that away. You know, the viewers, want to know. They didn't ask me to say this, but they want to know what exactly is a sexless marriage. We are talking about the term. It seems to be interesting term, and we want to know what is a sexless marriage. Is there such a thing?
Yes, such a thing, yes. They use two different barometers, two different measuring yards, sticks to determine it, A sexless marriage, from one school of thought, determines in terms of time frame, They will describe it as beyond a year. Okay. Yes, these things do exist, No sex within the marriage beyond a year. Another definition has been given is a sexless marriage can be considered little or none at all.
Okay.
Yes, and that tends to be the more prevalent one. Little or no sex, a month, 6 months, very, it's far and wide considered as a sexless marriage. Yes.
Okay. So we get a good context there of, the two types. What are you thinking about?
No, I was just thinking about if Jayden can answer this question.
Oh, right.
But from a theoretical perspective, you ever came across anything or considered what is a sexless marriage?
Well, based upon the pairs that I know get married and stuff, because I have no expertise in this right here.
Yeah.
But soon, though.
I hope you know.
Soon, I'll be married soon.
I'll be married soon. I'll be have experience in surviving this situation. Well,
yeah, but it have difficulties in terms of when you talk about surviving a sexless marriage, in terms of actually the intimacy, and it stems from intimacy in a sense.
Yes.
And then obviously you wouldn't be able to have the actual sex, and as Daniel was saying, it could be little or none at all.
Yeah.
So we're on the same path
because
when it comes to that.
Sometimes people in marriages, they have dry spells.
Yes.
Right? People talk about that. They have a dry spell in marriage. Oh gosh, boy, you ain't get none. You may not be in a sexless marriage, but with, it have some hard times.
Rather say 1 week. 1 week is hard times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Subway Power say less than 10 times per year.
Wow.
That's how they define that as a sexless marriage. I mean, and I had a point there on the tip of my tongue, and I totally forgot it. But we want to know when we put out this topic, there are people who are in these situations. Not that your marriage is in a hard time temporarily, but long term.
Yes.
They're in this sexless marriage situation. People share that it's definitely a real problem, and it seems from just a cursory online, search is a thing.
Yes.
They are.
As a matter of fact, if I might add, the reason we are treating with this topic is because our viewers actually reached out to us in terms of topics that they want, and very early on in the podcast, persons asked for us to treat with this topic.
I think it was after the first episode,
persons asked for us to treat with this, and we're realizing more and more that it is not as uncommon as we think.
Yes.
But because the topic is taboo, nobody wants to treat with it, because we are afraid that if I treat with the topic, people will look at me.
And they'll look at my marriage and my partner.
And they will judge.
Yes.
But we're happy to come to this space where we are able to speak about this in a real and frank way.
Yeah. And so we want to know, how common is this thing they call sexless marriage? How common it is?
It's more common than we think. Research was done in the US, and they found, just from preliminary research, that 1 in every 7 marriages experience having this problem.
Right.
And this is just, as they say, a cursory glance But being in these circles, marriage forums, marriage group, and you're discussing, you know, you'll be talking to your married peers, and you realize it is way more prevalent than we know and than we are willing to admit.
Right.
You know, we as you say, taboo shy away. I don't understand why it's a taboo topic when it's so integral.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was instituted by God himself. And God can only institute something good. So, this is something, as you are rightly doing, we need to focus on head first.
Yeah.
Run straight in.
Yeah.
Do you think, Jayden and Daniel, of course, you can chime in as well, that this is a topic that is particularly for a particular age, let's say it's only a certain age people experience this, or people throughout different age groups experiences? In other words, is this like if I get married as a young man and say, boy, Jayden, how old you are? 27, 28?
20, yeah.
Right? Jayden, 28, to say, well, boy, a 28-year-old does not experience it. Is that a thing, or?
Yeah, remember, it have many different challenges. So it have like medical problems
Right.
that could cause a sexless marriage. So even though someone could be young,
Yes.
you could have, like say, diabetes or so forth, that could cause erectile dysfunction.
Yes.
That's true.
Right.
And
That's
it
true.
should hinder, obviously, your sexual relations with your partner.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
So it's
yeah.
not limited to age.
No.
No, not
And
at all.
even our viewers online, right? They are chiming in and saying, Tobal and Sandy saying this a sexless marriage could be due to many reasons like distance, health,
Yeah.
psychological challenges. So
Yes.
same on the same vein
Yes.
of health and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes, and I will piggyback off of what Jayden is saying there. Age is not a barometer to determine that.
Okay. Okay.
Rightfully, as you said. You know, it's circumstances,
Right.
most of which tend to be unknown, so beyond your control, you know, and requires attention. And these circumstances know not age, race, gender, or social standing. Yeah?
That's true.
So those are some of the causes. So what would you say are some of the causes of a sexless marriage?
Well,
I saw someone on the chat, I think it's
Yeah.
Tova.
Tova.
She started to delineate some.
Yes, well, different roots. You have physical reasons, yes? You have emotional reasons. You may have mental issues. So, for instance, we have stress now. Stress is a leading cause have sexual issues within the marriage. Physical reasons, you may have some kind of deformity, some kind of deficiency, you know, as you said, erectile dysfunction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes? You have the emotional, and that is a long list.
Yeah.
And then you have natural reasons,
Okay.
like menopause, andropause, hormonal
Right.
changes taking place in the human body. Yeah, you may have some psychological trust issues. You may have fears, or simply lack of knowledge. You don't know. So your approach to the person might be totally off.
Okay.
There's a way to
okay.
approach a man, a way to approach a woman. There are things you do, things you don't do.
Right.
And you know, the Bible says we perish because we lack knowledge.
Right.
You know, and there are several reasons why, rooted in why it can lend to this surviving having a sexless marriage.
Yeah. Yep.
Those are some serious causes. I mean,
And
Giovanni, you want to chime in anything on terms of causes?
I will say, in terms of job, sometimes people job cause them to have sexual,
a sexless marriage.
Yeah.
So in terms of, like say, your husband most likely working offshore.
Offshore. We were remember we were discussing
He
this.
was offshore.
We're not picking on offshore workers.
No,
Go
if
ahead.
you can make it work, but
Yeah.
if you go offshore, those are reasons, and then obviously time not being spent together
Right.
causes intimacy problems.
Yes.
So you're not getting the
Yes.
bonding and
Yes.
communicating.
Yes.
So I think job is a one that we should really
Look at.
Another leading one would be health reasons.
That exactly.
Yes,
People
and there are
putting
health
that in the chat,
reasons many
medical.
persons are not even aware of.
Okay.
For example, one you would call is a vaginismus. Yes?
Please tell us, what is that?
Well, you see, vaginismus has different dimensions, mental, physical, but basically it is rooted in fear as being one of the causal factors. And the results of it, the entire passage of the woman locks up.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Beyond her control.
Oh.
Beyond her control.
Right.
So it's not something she is doing because, yeah.
Sure.
You know, it might
Never
be
heard of it before.
Yeah, that way.
Well, we learn it, yeah.
being cultured.
Okay.
You know, religious environments tend to be rigid with sex, and
Yes.
it damages your whole perspective of sex.
Okay.
And now this manifests itself later on in these environments called marriage.
Yeah.
And
When
now,
it's supposed to be
yeah,
free to explore,
exactly.
you have a in
you
your
have a
mental
blocker
block.
there. So you
Okay.
need that intervention. You could have, for men, it may be hormonal changes, their testosterone levels dropping. For women, it could be fibroid issues.
Okay.
It have a number of medical reasons that could.
So I like that you touched on it, and Jayden said something very important as well in terms of the job, because I kind of classify it, they are voluntary and involuntary. And I'm using these terms loosely, right? In terms of you could actually do something to cause your sexless marriage, or you could actually not do something to cause.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And like Jayden said, you know, job is a big thing.
Yeah.
Because Kareina, there are some studies out of Japan. You wanna share with
Yeah,
them?
but just briefly, I was looking at sexless marriages and research that has been done. I think in 2018 it was saying Japan had a really high prevalence of sexless marriages, and a lot of it is due to work and work hours. And I was speaking with our tech, Joseph, this evening, and he was saying, you know, a lot of times as a society becomes more progressive, the drive towards what we understand or what we hold sacred, which would have been family time,
Yes.
intimacy, marriage. Anytime a society becomes more progressive, those things tend to fall off or fall away. It is less significant, and because the earning that would bring is less than if you are working at a job. So the financial implications is like, okay, no, we don't need that. That's like more detracting you from work and making money.
Yes.
And being progressive. So those things fall away. Therefore, they have a more higher rate of sexless marriages in Japan. So that's one instance.
And so I think that's something that can fall under the category of voluntary.
Okay.
Because there are persons who choose occupations that lead them towards a sexless marriage. You know, I unfortunately know of circumstances where a couple got married and immediately after the marriage went and lived in separate countries.
Amazing.
You know, like for work.
What?
Yeah.
Amazing.
They got married, and when I say immediately, you know, we Trinis just
Yeah.
which is, you know, after probably not a year, it was like like a month or two.
Not immediately.
Yeah, that's immediately.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, that is pretty
About,
immediate.
You're correct. You're correct in
Yeah,
saying
in
that.
a
Wow.
month or two, this one was living in this other country and this one was living in Trinidad. And I was like, what? That really lends to such a situation. And it is not healthy. It's not healthy. But these are some of the things that we do. For example, how much barrel babies we have in Trinidad.
Yeah, we had a whole barrel era of children growing up.
Where
people
one
sending.
parent left and go to the US to send economic means to their families.
Yeah.
And we're not saying yes or no, that's not the topic for discussion this evening. But what we're saying is that if you're married and you make such a decision, understand that this other party, or both parties actually, are living in a sexless marriage.
That is a very important point, because I just jump in just briefly
Go
here.
ahead.
Because in the Caribbean, you know, we have persons migrate. Sometimes families don't migrate together. Sometimes a spouse would migrate in the hopes of, I will send for you when I get more papers, or I will send. And a lot of times, for fear of coming back, and they will be debarred entry into wherever they want to settle. They stay away for long. Sometimes they may never return. And what happens to the other spouse who is left behind? It's a sexless marriage. No mind is sending things. Yeah. So it's almost like a next dynamic of, instead of barrel children, it's like a barrel spouse you have.
And you see, one of the problems with this topic of sexless marriage is married persons need to educate themselves on the importance of sex. We know it in very limited dimensions, few dimensions, but there are so many dimensions to sex. You know, it balances a woman's hormones. It prevents prostate cancer for a man.
Okay.
One of the leading causes of prostate cancers in men is little or no sex.
I know some fella going to jump in and tell their wife this is for medical reasons.
You know?
Send your wife. The link.
You know? We have so many reasons why we have to. God knows what He's doing.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we have persons in the chat talking about sexless marriages in terms of a loss of physical attraction.
Yes.
And that's a reality as well.
Yes,
thanks for that point, because I mean, the Bible does say one thing that is sure to feed is beauty.
Yes.
And so, you know, you get married and your wife, your spouse has children, the man, he starts to age, life takes a toll. And you know, the hair that you used to have on your head, you know, start to run away. The hair start to run. And all the times you put on a big belly, you know, and a lot of different changes happen, and the question about physical attraction is a real one that can really lead to a sexless marriage. Although I would contest that, because I have a theory. Now, it's actually, I have a hypothesis. It hasn't made its way to theory yet.
Let's hear this hypothesis.
You know, I usually say that I believe God designed us to have physical attraction just as a means to get you there. But your emotional attraction is supposed to pick up the slack when physical attraction starts to wane. So I believe that physical attraction, you know, you come to the altar and whatnot, and you feel all these butterfly feelings and whatnot about the physical. Yeah. But the idea is that you're supposed to have that emotional connection. Because I want to submit that emotional connection gives a stronger attraction than the physical attraction.
I second that.
Yeah. So when the reality of it is, when your physical attraction, that honeymoon phase starting to wane, you know, and life starting to take a toll, you're supposed to start to have kindled already in your marriage relationship that emotional connection now that gives the 90 and the 80-year-old who want to still, you know, and kiss each other. Yes. That is a connection that is beyond physical. And so physical attraction, if we really focus on that, and you know, this is what you're married for, I marry for physical attraction, then I can really see that being a pitfall in your relationship.
So on the heels of that, as you're saying that, right, who you all will think will lie more about intimate matters, male or female, like even online, who you all could answer in the chat, who you think will lie more in terms of intimate, male or female, and why?
So first of all, I think around the topic of sex,
men. Sorry.
No. I think it has the most amount of lies, cover-ups, ego. I mean, just from being in secondary school, and listening to people talk, and talk about all these great...
The sexual proud.
Yes, so
very fun, men.
Who lies more? Let's see what they're saying.
Because of the ego. Somebody said woman. Oh, Subway Powers, defend your point. Why are you saying woman? Why are you saying woman? Why are you saying men?
But some say men lie more.
Yeah.
But some say women lie better.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Because I never went in a barber shop to experience the kind of conversations that happen in a barber shop. But I oftentimes hear people say, barber shop is a sacred space where they talk about all these things, and I feel a lot of the things be lie too.
Yes. Men don't even just lie to please females, It's even other men they lie and say what happened and how long it lasted and whatnot. It's not even just to say they're telling females this, but in the barbershop self, they lying.
Yeah, to get tips.
Yeah, they're lying because, again, as Adara was saying, it's ego. It's really ego.
Yes, no, they say no audio.
With themselves,
They say no audio here in the chat. It's back. The audio is back, apparently. Yes, no. Let's just make sure everybody is together and that we get an audio.
Yeah,
all right. All right, beautiful. So yeah, we get an audio.
We good.
All right. Not hearing. Y'all, we do apologize.
They said in and out.
The audio coming in and out. All right. So the tech guys, they're working on it.
You said good now.
All right, so I'm hearing on my phone here. All right, Marvin Williams, you're hearing. Right. Guys, nice. If you're hearing, just give us a signal.
Give us a thumbs up.
Just give a thumbs up or something if you're hearing.
And anytime the audio drop, just message in the chat so we will know not to continue, right?
Yeah, we don't want you to miss this discussion. We think it has some stuff. So yeah, so the barber shop as we... All right, they're saying it was going and coming. But it's good now. All right.
Nice.
Right. Well, I keep praying for the podcast, right? The devil don't want this to go out. But we're gonna deal with some issues this evening that may help somebody to have a better relationship with their spouse.
And thanks so much for engaging in the poll.
Yeah, thanks. What's the poll?
The poll, 19 people vote. We have 45 viewers all year. Ramp up the votes. We want to know who lies more in marriages.
Yeah.
Men or women?
Yeah. Guys, you never know. This poll might make it international. Right, it might make some data analysis. So let's get back to it. The barbershop. What were we talking about the barbershop again?
No, we are just saying it's not only men lie to women. Talking about the intimate matters. Even in it's marriage we're talking about.
Yeah.
Make sure you say marriage. So they lie even to the other pairs. Yeah, in the barbershop, sorry. Yeah.
To the peers. Well, so okay. You think someone lying to themselves too?
I was not what you're thinking. It's an internal battle here too. Ego and image.
Yeah.
So most time when
dominance.
Is a battle with themselves.
Yeah.
And not seeing that you're shooting yourself in your foot.
All right.
Yeah.
And some persons are saying, women lie more, especially to save their men's egos.
Wow.
Ooh. But on the flip side, somebody said, Subway Power said, no wife wants others to know they are not intimate with their husband, so they lie.
Right.
So
and that's a reality.
Yes,
that's a reality.
Women lie for good, but it has nothing to do with them.
Right. Yeah.
They see it as good. They lie to just what you said there, to protect someone because they love someone. It is externally driven.
Yeah.
And most time when men lie, it is internally driven.
That's interesting because I never really hear one. I never really heard a lady boast in her sexual prowess. You understand?
That's true.
Yeah, because if she does, she would be frowned upon by society, and society has a kind of double standard in terms of men with good experience are considered real. That's easy lion. You understand? And women with experience, they're frowned upon, and so therein lies the fact that men lie to inflate their prowess, where women will keep silent in the matter, and they may lie and not tell you that they have experience.
Okay.
So
A lie of omission.
So anyhow you take it, so far we have 77% saying men, 23% saying women.
Yeah.
So men look like the liars when when it comes to intimate matters. What are some of, I mean, I have to keep saying it, we're not here just to have a scandalous session. We really want to sink our teeth into this matter. What are some of the lies that we've heard men and women propagate? Where we explore some for the women. What are some of the lies in the barbershop we hear the men speak concerning?
For men, you know, they will speak about...
Sorry to cut you,
yes.
but rather what we think are the lies. Because unless you was there, really, you know if it's a lie. Eh?
Yeah,
But what do you think?
You know, men will associate shoe size and compare shoe size with genitalia size. Yes? And will frown on others with small shoe sizes. When, you know, that's one of the...
See you at that size 13, you
know, they will speak about and lie about the number of persons they were with and their skill and all these different things. When, in a sense, you could tell.
Yeah, Johan, what do you think?
I think the duration, the time spent in intercourse. Some lions say 3 hours and all kind of thing. I heard this already. And I just watching it like, really? Come on, man. Yeah,
like a marathon.
It's not realistic.
Yeah. So someone said, when men, husbands, ask their wives, how was it? Do you enjoy it? The usual response is to exaggerate his performance to protect his feelings and ego.
Yes.
And that's what we've been saying. But we're gonna get into the whole topic now because we realize that people lie.
Yes.
So we have to try to cut the mustard here tonight.
Okay.
We have to try to be able to cut through the fluff.
Yes.
And get down to the brass tacks of. By no means we are any tribunal of experts here, nor have we done any great data analysis or anything. But as men and women, married and unmarried, what are some of the myths from a married man and from a single man? What are some of the myths that we hear about sex in the context of marriage?
Yes. I will start with one of our myths is, in terms of when you get married and the wedding night, the honeymoon night, that you go and get it in one time. The night self, that is it.
Yeah.
Mass destruction.
That's number one lie.
I think from based upon my peers and hearing people married and stuff, is that most of the times they're tired. Yes. So the being tired, you're not able to really, especially for a woman. For men, you might be able to run still, but for women, emotionally, they drain also from the wedding day. So I think that is a myth for sure.
Most definitely. Another myth, great sex means you have a great marriage.
Okay. That's a big one.
Yeah. Great sex means you have a great marriage. So when you frequent sex means you have an intimate marriage.
Right.
And these are myths. You know, when coming to a great marriage, there are many things that needs to come into play, both for male and female, based on our design. You know, our needs will be totally different. So you could have this great sex and you don't want to see the person after you finish. It might be just a release, just a means stand and let time to move on.
Just for pleasure.
You know, strictly. So you know, that's a myth out there.
Yeah.
You know, another myth is the single persons believe, because you know, as married folks, you have all this juggling with life and all that. You may have to schedule your sex sessions.
Okay.
And you know, singles may believe penning or calendar in your sex is a boring thing.
Right.
So to me.
So you spice it up. Spice it up. Switch up things.
Yeah.
You know, we curry this and that's Chinese. Switch it up. You switch up the meal.
Right.
Wow.
I understand. Very, very salient point. You know, I like the one Jayden gave. I think Rani Hon here is saying most people are falling asleep that night.
Yeah.
All right, and based upon what Daniel would have shared as well. You know, plenty of people, we have that, even though sometimes we don't say it, we have that notion like, you know, you judge your marriage based upon your sex life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if your marriage, if your sex life isn't that great, your marriage ain't that great.
Yeah.
But if it through the roof, we real good.
Yes.
And that's absolutely not true.
No, it's not true.
Absolutely not true.
You know, I think another myth that singles might propagate is that your life, you're going to be on lockdown. So your life going to be real boring because it's going to be one person for your entire life. And it's like, it's almost like you can't seek for another hit from another person. And that's it there for you. Hard luck, you know. It's a hard life now, but only one they have. You can't sample, you can't
one plate of food.
Yeah, one plate of food. The same thing, right? True, but as Daniel rightly said, and in merge you'll learn all these things, you know, switch it up, do different things, you know.
And you see, when you think that way, you reduce marriage to just a mundane physical realm.
Yes, man.
You know, so you take it outside of its sanctity, outside of what it was created to be and what it was meant to be. And if God is the one who created this thing, God is the one who instituted it, gifted it to the married couple, then that analysis, what persons have there, does not match the character of God.
Okay.
Right.
It doesn't match it. Our God, look at creation, is diversity, it is you know, persons, I will say, need to step up.
Yeah.
They are reducing God's gifting to the married couple. It's not simple, mundane, no. When you connect with that person, your spouse, your husband, your wife, it goes beyond the physical, as Jayden was saying there. You are whole, and it is one of the highest forms of demonstrating union.
Right.
When you connect in sex, is a way of demonstrating that relationship between God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, that synergy. How could that be something physical and mundane?
Yes.
Every time is like the first time.
And I like that. I like that point that you made, because I think
The doctor just said.
there's Dr. Yeah, because I think a myth that I would share is that persons place sex as a very high priority in their marriage. And so it ties into all that was said before, which is they think that when we get into marriage, this is going to be the number one goal. And that links with the physical attraction as to sometimes why they got into the relationship in the first place. Some of them it's just because of a physical attraction. And some of them, especially in the Christian context, they want to get married in order to have sex.
Right.
Good point.
And you know, so persons make the point of it's better to marry than to burn.
Right.
Yes.
And they use that as the sole reason to get married. Well, let me tell you something. If that's the reason they're going to get married, get a little more counseling person. Get a little more counseling, because the reality of it is that there's a myth that in your married life, sex takes a really high priority, first or second. And the reality of it is that as you live, you'd realize the priority for sex actually drops down. And I'm not saying by any means that it is not important. It is important. But the level of attention and focus that we give it before marriage isn't really what it should be. And as you rightly said, God has designed us to be so dynamic. But when we don't follow God's plan, sometimes we get into marriage and we want to go to Dubai on the first night.
Yes.
And not understand, and then when we get disappointed if we're not at Dubai, because we feel ourselves somehow incompatible or we're not grooving together, then we want to throw in the towel and give up altogether. When we have to understand that a part of the growth of your marital relationship, your emotional intimacy and stuff, is also your physical intimacy has to grow as well.
Amen.
And so that's what Daniel,
Daniel.
I was going to say Dr. Daniel. That's what Dr. Daniel is saying when, you know, it gets sweeter and sweeter as the days go by.
Yeah.
Because you start to learn each other, you start to
Yes.
understand each other, you start to be able to communicate on a deeper level. And so it's really not supposed to get worse, it's supposed to keep getting better.
Yes.
And if it's not getting better, you know, you want to look into that. You want to look into that.
Yes.
But I just want to share for anybody who've gotten married and you think that this was not cutting it.
Yes.
You know, the inexperienced or whatever the case may be, this was not cutting it. You have to be patient. It's a process, and you'll have to grow together in your union.
And you see, sex is one of the tools God uses to build His character in you.
Okay.
Because the things that are required for this sexual intimacy to grow, as you say, can only be found, or mostly be found in the spiritual realm.
Okay.
The fruits of the Spirit. Just as you say, patience, long-suffering, self-control, unconditional love. Without these characteristics of Christ, going through any other doorway,
Forgiveness.
forgiveness.
Yeah. That's a very
It builds your
point.
character.
Yeah.
So it forces you now to go and rely on Christ. Because He said all things work together for your good. Because the ultimate goal is to hammer you in His image.
All right.
That is the ultimate goal. And sex is one of the tools God uses to hammer you in His image. When these things come your way, you have to rely on Him. Because what is the alternative? Going the way of the world.
Wow.
Beautifully
That
said.
was
Beautifully
really
said.
cool.
Yeah.
That was
I don't have to call him Dr. Daniel or Pastor
Pastor
Daniel.
Dr. Pat.
But how do we feel? Because someone may fall on hard times in terms of the sexual intimacy. And how do we feel about the passage of scripture, pastors? About the Bible says due benevolence, you know, that a husband must give due benevolence to his wife, a wife must give due benevolence to her husband. And I guess the question that I have that is underneath all of this, if a person is unable to give due benevolence, is low sex or sexless marriage grounds for divorce?
Well, from the Christian perspective, the Bible perspective, that is not a ground for divorce.
Okay.
It is not a ground for divorce. God outlined His ground, which is fornication, immorality, sexual immorality. And having this existed within the marriage, taking the route of divorce does not reflect the character of Christ.
Okay.
Because when the going get tough with us and sin, Christ does not jump out the boat and leave us.
Right.
You know, He does not jump out the boat and leave us there. He woos us. He has that patience, unconditional love. That is what the marriage is all about. So when these storms come in the marriage, you're taking that route of, all right, divorce. One, you will not be maintaining God's tenets. What has to be done? Faith and works. Because faith without works is dead. So the works would be a root cause analysis. What is the root? What causing this low or no sex in the marriage? All right? And then when you take that approach, you create that enabling environment for the Holy Spirit to come in. And then this verse, all things work together for your good. It builds and it weaves you together, it brings you together. But you have to rely on God. You have that great controversy is out here as well, you know.
And I like that you mentioned the great controversy, because social media, society, Hollywood gives us some expectations. And they set our expectations of what marriage and sex should be like. And so it must be a certain, I want to be careful, but it must be a certain temperature and in a certain way. As you say, it must be spontaneous. Yes. I mean, not saying no, but we're not saying no, but at the end of the day, if your own doesn't look like what Hollywood is portraying, then don't throw away yours altogether based upon what Hollywood say it will be like. You know, in terms of we talk about the honeymoon night, and when you get home from the hotel, you know, you just can't wait. They leave reception early, you know, because this is what Hollywood tell you what happened in your mind, and you know, there are some people who just really can't wait. Yes. And the idea of it is that what we're saying tonight is sex was really created by God as an ultimate expression of a deep emotional intimacy. Amen. That reflects the character and the nature of God within your marriage. Amen. And so sex should not be boiled down, and as we say in this, the single men who may have some myths, not Jayden, but single men who may have some myths, sex shouldn't really just be relegated to an act. Yeah. You know, then you're missing the purpose and the point of sex. That sex is just this act, and you know, we, as you said, we schedule it, and I mean sometimes you have to schedule it, right?
Wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
But you know, you boil it down to this act, and then the man now, they say if you want to be in the bed by 11, be in the kitchen by 7. And so then now the man puts
if you want to be in heaven by 11.
If you want to be in heaven by 11, be in the kitchen by 7. Then he
think about something.
then now the man now starts to manipulate the situation, you know, because
get things
he
right,
wants to be in heaven tonight. Yeah. So he starts to do certain things this evening, and that's really not the purpose. No. It's a skewed concept. Really and truly, out of the emotional intimacy and the relationship that you have with your wife and with God, sex is supposed to be that culminating act.
Yes. You see, that is idolatry you're talking about there. Because you want something at any extent, even compromising the character of Christ.
Right.
So you have ventured into the realm of idolatry, and you are clueless. And how could that environment get better when that's the approach?
Yeah.
And remember, we are a team.
Yeah.
It's not you and I, it's twin.
Yes.
You know, and we in this together, because guess what? Today for me, tomorrow for you.
Yeah. And I like that you said idolatry, because ultimately what happens in the context, if sex is just this thing that you do, then you separate sex from the love for the individual. Because sanctity. You want to go to heaven.
Yes.
You want to reach this place. You want to reach euphoria.
Yes.
And so it is disconnected from the individual, because I just want this to happen. I just want to reach to heaven. Yes. I just want to have that euphoric experience. And your partner is almost just as an object to get to that point. And it really robs sex of all the meaning that God would have intrinsically placed in it.
Yes.
Because she now becomes an object.
Yes.
And no wonder many women feel objectified. Because we lose the intent, we lose the purpose, we lose the context of sex, and we just put it on the table. I'm going to do this, so I'll do this to get some.
To get to that.
I'll do this, and I'll get some, and that was it. But really and truly, it should be the culmination of a wonderful experience.
So, I apologize for my coughing one time if you all were hearing it. I was dying on set, but you know, that's live television. Charlene Augustine is saying Pastor Daniel is very knowledgeable.
That's my sister. Yes, I'll let them know.
Great session, guys. And Sabi Powers is saying one hand don't clap, but I like the point that both of you all are making, where it's almost like a cause and effect thing you're putting into place here. So if I do all the right things and tick all the right boxes, this would happen. But it's so much more than that. It's a covenant relationship. Marriage is a covenant relationship.
Definitely.
And sex is just sex. I don't say sex is just. Sex is a gift given to us by God, and it's only Him could. If you're having a challenge, seek counsel from God and seek counsel from knowledgeable Christian counselors as well, who can help.
I have a question for Jayden, and well said. I have a question for Jayden. As a single man advising other single men, how would you advise that a person treats with the topic of sex single? I mean, you know they say you can't buy cat and bag.
Yes.
And you have to test a car
Yes.
before you buy it.
Drive it before you
You have to drive
before you buy.
Of course, in the Christian context, we say no to that. All right? So there must be some preparation
Yes.
in terms of some type of discussion.
Yes.
How do you?
Well, if you have any conversation with your partner just before marriage, right? Firstly, there's stages of a relationship. So you can't now meet somebody and talk in sex or expectations and things. You're setting up yourself there one time.
Right.
Because what I will say is that you have to have stage appropriate conversations. So when you reach closer to marriage or you get engaged, obviously the counselor, if you have a good counselor, will tell you these are some of the things that you have to really discuss before. But when you're discussing it, don't go any corner in mommy house or any dark and be like, no, you have to go in Eddie Hart where the lights bright, football game going on, and make sure your chair's there where people can see you, because these are things that when you start to talk and you mention it, it could raise some kind of emotions, and all of a sudden you're close, you touch a leg and things get
realistic.
Yeah. So I think we really have to be aware of that. And what's the next part you're saying?
That's pretty much it. Which is how do you counsel, how do you encourage a person, which is, and I like what you say, because we can't really, we have to set our expectations. But the question is, I'll add an addendum to that question, which is, how do you discuss expectations in a real way, in a realistic way? Do you discuss frequency? Do you discuss what are your expectations, or you just leave it on the table and say all things work together for good? Wherever I get here, accepting, and taking. What are some of the expectations? I want to hear from Jayden. What are some?
My expectations?
No. What are some of the ways you approach such a situation for somebody who's in your stage right now? You're going to get married shortly, and I trust that would have been a topic that you would have discussed with your counselor and stuff. How does a young person get into that?
Well, again, the timing is right, and you treated it basically, you're asking your expectations, you state what is your preference, the time, the frequency, in terms of having children, if you use protective and those kind of things are things that you have to discuss. Obviously, you didn't have sex before, so I hope that you're not aware, but I will say that if the marriage that you're about to embark on is God-centered and you believe it is from God, I think you shouldn't worry about test driving the car before you buy the car. I mean, it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done because we live in a environment now where they're pushing the sexual kind of stuff. So as Christians, we really have to be on edge and on guard and actually set boundaries, realistic boundaries. Yeah. So.
Well said. Well said. We have to set boundaries because, and I like the thing what you said about don't go in Eddie Hart. I mean, don't go in the dark spot and say, go and have this conversation. And I would even add to that, keeping the conversation in the right space and in the right place. Jayden and I'm aware, seeing that he's my brother.
Yeah, that's your brother?
that he would have they would have received counseling. And a good counselor is a person to guide you through that process.
True.
But Jayden made a very important point. When God recommends a vehicle to you, you don't have to go under the hood and check and see and double check. Because God recommends a vehicle for you. So he said, if your relationship is Christ-centered and you have God at the center, you don't really have to double check that in that regard.
You trust
God,
This might sound a little contradictory to what you're saying, right?
Hold on.
No, but what I'm going to say is we live in a sinful world whereby not everybody that you may encounter may be a virgin.
Well,
right?
That's true, yeah.
So, and you would like to marry that person, yes. You pray about the different things like that, but you have to understand that we would have spoken about it in some of our merge minis. There are consequences for actions. Sometimes we live in a real world where there are sexually transmitted diseases, sexually transmitted infections, AIDS, STDs, those things. it's important and responsible that if you know that you would have had sexual partners before, that you do the responsible thing of getting tested, and then it may happen that something like that can come up in counseling if there is a consequence because of the action. And as a couple going toward marriage, you will then have to treat it what obtains, you know, or how you will go forward with the marital relationship. Not, you know, just saying that is an important thing. We may not want to think about it, but it is important to also consider.
Very well said, very well said. I think it is important as well, guys. We can talk all night on this topic. We have to bring this topic to a wrap. But we really want to get some advice from the two of you. We'll start with Jayden, we'll end with Daniel. What would you say, what advice would you give to someone who is right now experiencing a sexless marriage?
The advice I will give, firstly, I will say, well, again, I have no expertise in this, but the advice I will give someone who is experiencing that is really and truly, you find out what is the cause, the root cause. I think my brother over here was saying it earlier. You find out the root cause, and dealing with the root cause, you'll be able to peel back or regain your intimacy between the individuals. And I think intimacy and actually communicating honestly and not doing the blame game and not making the other person feel small or belittled with whatever circumstances they may have. I think that is a good approach in actually helping and going forward even in a sexless marriage.
Beautifully well said. I like the point that you said, not the blame game, because the blame game can actually make the situation worse.
Spiral.
Because if a person has some inhibitions or whatever and you start blaming, it actually makes the situation worse. Thanks so much.
Yes.
What's your advice?
God cannot give a bad gift. God can't give a bad gift. Not the God that we serve.
All right.
Yeah? Sex is something given to us, the married couple, from Him. And both persons must be willing. You'll always have problems. If it's not in this area, it's in another area. So the principle applies. You must approach it, just what he says, root cause analysis. But both persons must be willing. You don't want a pushing and a pulling, because we are a team. We are the same team. Yes? And so you have to rely on God. Do not underestimate the power of prayer in all of this.
Okay.
Do not underestimate the spiritual dimension. And God, no matter how much that storm is raging, He's in that vessel with you. And the very hole that Joseph was placed in led him to be in Prime Minister of Egypt. So the very same thing that is strenuous in that marriage, approached based on the principles of the Bible, will be a blessing. You will have a testimony. You can encourage someone else. And this is how the gospel of Christ keep moving on. Yeah?
Beautiful, beautiful. Well said, guys. Well, if you're online, my counsel to you, you've experienced or have or know someone experiencing a sexless marriage, I would say, well, if it's a medical reason, get help. You know, there are many different things we can do out there. There are sex therapists.
Yes.
There are counselors. If you have a mental block or mental challenge, some childhood trauma, sexual trauma as a child, seek counseling, seek therapy. I heard from Pastor Tobias. Have mercy. Pastor Tobias, by the way, Daniel and Arlene are bona fide merge members.
Yes.
And Pastor Tobias came to our end of year program 1 year, and he shared with all the men. He said, those of you who are aging and you having a little bit of ED, he says, zinc is the key. Zinc is the key. So if you have to take zinc supplements, please don't feel shame. Go in the pharmacy, brave, and buy a zinc.
Get checked out by a medical doctor first.
Please do. This
And
is not
then
medical advice.
let them prescribe
Definitely. So,
if needed.
So get yourself checked out. Take care of your health. Take care of your marital relationships, get the counsel and seek the guidance if you need to. But most of all, continue to be praying through the matter, because as Daniel said several times tonight, all things work together for good. Maybe God is putting you through this experience to train you, to teach you. Our 40 years in the wilderness. We hope it's not 40 years in the wilderness. But God maybe is putting you through something so that you can come out better. So trust God in the process. Kareina, any final words as we close?
And I would just like to say that I want to underscore the point that the two parties must be willing. If you desire that your marriage work, both of you all are on the same team. Both of you all must be willing to seek the redress and take it to God in prayer, because we live in a sinful world, but God is more than able to assist us, because He designed marriage and it's a covenant relationship that He would have implemented.
Beautiful,
so that's
beautiful.
what I have to say.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us and staying locked on. Remember, this link, it will always be there, so please share it, share it, share it. Show your friends, show your relatives, show couples, show singles. Ensure that they have the knowledge and the experience to help them to be able to navigate these tricky waters. They are more ubiquitous than we think. On that note, we want to end tonight. But before we do, it would be remiss of us if we don't say happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So, first of all the people in September.
Okay, all right.
Right. But most specifically tonight to Renee Joseph.
Yes, the September Queen.
Yes, the September Queen. She was our guest at the last podcast, at the last two podcasts that we had.
Yes.
And so we want to say a special happy birthday to Renee.
And it would be remiss of me. Sorry, go ahead.
And God bless you.
It would be remiss of me if we don't say happy birthday also. Jayden is celebrating his birthday tomorrow, the 14th. And of course it's Sabbath, so happy birthday one time, Jayden.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks, guys. Just remember, September is the best month of the year. All right. Big up September, people. All right, but we'll be here again in October, the second Friday night.
The best month of the year where I will celebrate my birthday.
All right, let's end this podcast, please. All right, guys, thanks for being here with us tonight. Thanks for being with us, to all our guests online. Remember that we are always better together.
Better with you.
Good night.